How good are you at paying attention? Can you stay focused and block out distractions? Right? Scientists say that our brains are the most amazing processors ever, right? Because with our brains, we have the ability to learn things like we can learn calculus. We can learn how to dance and perform in a ballet. We can learn art, all right? The ability to paint and draw and make murals and beautiful things. We can learn, right, how to do medicine, the human body works. And we can learn how to operate on another human being to save their lives, right? Our brains are amazing. We can even learn how to focus, right? To focus on one person in a conversation, right? No matter what distractions we're faced with, we can focus in on who we're talking to. Right? It doesn't matter if there are dogs barking all around, if there are birds chirping, we can stay focused. It doesn't matter if there are horns blowing, if we're outdoors, or if there are other groups of people having conversations, we can stay focused on the person that we are having a conversation with. It doesn't even matter if Darth Vader is walking by, right? We can remain focused on the person speaking directly to us. Well, some of us can, right? Some of us can. How many of you are paying attention to me right now? Right? Do I have your undivided attention? While writing this message, I looked up at all of my tabs on my internet browser. I had 21 tabs open that were unrelated to my research for this message. Right? Talk about distraction. Our mobile devices these days, they keep us from focusing our full undivided attention anywhere. Think about school, right? Whether you're a young person or older person going back to school, right? Our mobile devices keep us from paying full attention to our teachers. We want to see what's going on in the world. Right? Our home life, talking with our spouses, right? If we're talking with our spouse and we hear our phone vibrate on the other side of the room, oh my goodness, I have to reach over and see what's going on. But I know if I reach over to see what's going on, my wife might end my life, right? So we are so distracted in this day and age. I even read a study that said that we are distracted while watching television. That's right. We're sitting back watching television. Most of us are sitting there with a mobile device in our hands at the same time when we're watching television. Like our camera crew shaking their heads, Connor, Amanda, everybody knows that that is the case. Now, some of us are experiencing even greater distractions in life, right? Seriously, right? Many of us have lost our jobs during this COVID-19 age. Some of us are losing our life savings. It's just dwindling away. Right? Some of us are just tired of being distracted by always seeing Black life ended on social media and on television and just Black life not treated with honor and respect. And that's a distraction on what's really important. Right? Some of us are distracted by the loss of so many lives during this age. Right? We've lost so many people to COVID-19 and other diseases, as well as some of our celebrities and heroes, right? Maybe you've lost someone to COVID-19. Maybe you've lost someone to cancer. Maybe you have lost someone to some other medical issue. Maybe you're the one with some medical issue at this point. And that's a major distraction in your life from what you need to be focused on. There's a possibility that one or all of these things are taking your attention away from Jesus. When we are not focused, right, it's evident that we are more unproductive. We're sinking in if you will, in the depths of the unknown. We are unproductive. We're often depressed. We see all the chaos and the confusion going on around us. Is anyone out there experiencing what I'm experiencing? These things that are going on. It's my belief that a refocusing on Jesus, a refocusing on our King, will help to center us, to make progress, and bring unity to our world and into your personal situation. So, how do we do that? Gary, how do I try this thing out? How do I focus my attention on Jesus? Right? Because nothing seems to be going right now. Every time I turn on the TV or social media, right, my anxiety levels are elevated. Mine too. I get it. But I have found 3 things that have helped me to keep my attention on Jesus during this time. And I want to share them with you. You know what they are? Well, here's a few things. I'm going to tell you a few things that have helped me out. They come from the story in Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew in the Bible. So listen, if you've been around church for a few years or more, you've probably heard the story or read it on your own. If you are newer to the faith, I'm so glad you're checking this out. Maybe you've heard of this story before, but I want to draw your attention to an amazing miracle that Jesus has performed. And if you're checking this out because somebody made you, or if you don't believe in all of this Jesus stuff and you're just checking this thing out, I'm so glad you're checking this out. I just want you to stay focused for a few more minutes and see what these steps have in store for you. Because I think these steps will help each one of us to experience the centering, the grounding, the loving, and the comforting direction that only Jesus can bring to our chaotic situation. So the story is found in Matthew chapter 14, right? And at the near the start of that chapter, we see that Jesus has just performed an amazing miracle. He fed thousands of people with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, right? He did this amazing multiplication miracle. After that, he told his followers, his 12 disciples, to get into a boat and get on the boat, go across the sea, and meet him on the other side. And then he was going to go away and pray and then come and meet them. Well, what happens is that there's a storm that brews. The wind starts to toss the boat back and forth, starts to rock the boat. And it's about 3 o'clock in the morning. The disciples are terrified, right? They're scared out of their minds. And Jesus, like any great superhero, comes in to the rescue. Right? He doesn't come in with a cape and a mask on, but he comes in walking on the water. Job tells us in Job chapter 9, verse 8, that only God can tread on the surface of the water. So there's an object lesson here for each one of us and for the disciples, right? To understand that Jesus is so much more than just a man. Jesus wants us to know that he is God. In this story, the first thing that we see that we should do to stay focused on Jesus in the midst of our distraction, in the midst of our depression, in the midst of our distress, is to pray. To pray. Look at verse 27. It says, "But Jesus immediately said to them, 'Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid.' 'Lord, if it's you,' Peter replied, 'tell me to come to you on the water.' 'Come,' he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus." Have you read that story before? It's absolutely amazing what happens here. But one thing that I want to pull out of here is that Peter has a conversation with Jesus in his chaotic situation. And Jesus, what does he do? He speaks to Peter. He encourages him in this situation. So much so that Pete got he got so much courage that he was willing to step out of the boat in order to walk toward Jesus. He was willing to step out of the boat in the midst of a storm, in the midst of waves, in the midst of wind, and walk on that in which was actually causing his problem. What authority, what courage Peter had just from having a conversation with Jesus. Now that's courage, right? Have you ever had that kind of courage? That kind of courage where you go put on your swim trunks or your swimsuit and go to the YMCA and try to step out on the water? I think you need a little bit more prayer for that. Whatever you are going through, seriously now, whatever you're going through in your life, I have a question to pose to you. Have you prayed about it? If so, how much? And if you haven't prayed about it, when are you going to start? Prayer is relational communication with God. Right? It's a conversation that we have with our Heavenly Father. Right? You tell Him what's up, what's on your mind, what's on your heart. Right? You don't have to have any special words, any written down anything. Just tell Him what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what's going on in your life. Make prayer a regular part of your lifestyle, not just an occasional activity. You know, time is often our problem, right? I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that. But if time seems to elude you, what I want you to do is to set a schedule. Add prayer to your calendar. Right? We schedule everything else. We schedule our doctor's appointments, our dentist appointments. We schedule meetings with friends. We schedule Zoom meetings for work. Why can't we schedule a meeting with our Creator to spend some time in prayer with Him? It doesn't have to be long and drawn out. The second thing that we see in this passage that we can do to help us to focus on Jesus in the midst of our chaos is to surround ourselves with the right people. People. Look at verse 30. But when he saw the wind, this is Peter, he was afraid and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and he caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. We need to surround ourselves with the right people. Right? We need to surround ourselves with those people who will help us, who will encourage us. You see, what I noticed in this passage that isn't directly written, but you have to imply it, is this. There are 12 people on that boat, 12 disciples. Not one of them said an encouraging word to Peter. Not one of them spoke up to say, "Hey, Peter," or not even one of them reached out to grab him while he was drowning. You have to imagine, what are the disciples doing at this time? Just this past Tuesday, I was stressed out. I was talking to a friend of mine, a co-worker. You actually know her. It's Jess McCrae. And we were talking about what we were doing this week at work. You know, everybody out there in Auburn, you guys are working hard and you're doing a great job with renovating your new space. Congratulations on that. And she's talking about all the work that everyone's putting in and you know, how stressful it is to not have an office space and to not have internet and all of that kind of stuff. And I was talking about this message, like, hey, I don't have my message prepared. I don't have it ready. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have to get with the tech team and all this kind of stuff to record and to get ready. And she spoke some words to me. She actually encouraged me. She said, "Doesn't the Holy Spirit always give you what you need when you need it? Why stress out? Live your life and let Him handle the rest." What powerful and encouraging words from not just a colleague, but a friend, a good friend, someone who deeply cares about me and my family. Peter's storm got a whole lot worse, right? When he took his focus and his attention off of Jesus. When he started to look around and look at the storm that was around him. Look at the waves and how the wind was reacting around him. He didn't make focusing on Jesus his priority. He made the circumstances and situations that he was surrounded by his priority. Peter may not have had encouraging colleagues surrounding him at the time, but he did have the most valuable player on his team. He had Jesus who encouraged him. He had Jesus who was by his side. He had Jesus who, in Peter's storm, he was drowning in his circumstances. Jesus is the one who reached down to pick him up. Some of us are sinking in depression these days. Some of us are sinking in our health challenges. Some of us are sinking in the loss of life that continues to surround us and doesn't seem to go away. Some of us are drowning in situations and in storms that we created for ourselves. And we can't seem to climb out of that ocean, that storm. We need to surround ourselves with a crew of people who will encourage us to press on when we are down, to never give up when it seems like we are out for the count. And we all need to connect with Jesus, the one, the only one who can save us from our own destruction, right? Our own predicament, even from our own self-inflicted negative situations. Wherever you are in your journey, no matter how deep you are in your situation, regardless of how bad the storm is, know that Jesus is extending his hand out to you. He is in the storm with Peter in this story. And he's right here reaching out to you right now. The next question that I have for you is, are you reaching out to him? Surrounding ourselves with the right people can help us to remain focused on what is most important in our lives. And that's what Jesus is up to. Now, that third and final thing that I've found that we can do to keep our focus and keep our attention on Jesus in the midst of our chaotic situations is to praise. To praise. Look at verse number 33. Matthew chapter 14, verse 33 says, "Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, 'Truly, you are the Son of God.'" Right? I define worship like this. It's very simple. Worship is showing God worth. Right? In Oriental cultures, right, which this Bible is from, right, from an Asian culture, the Bible is from an Eastern culture. What would happen in those cultures, right, is the art of worship, the idea of worship meant to fall upon the knees and touch the ground with your forehead as an expression of profound reverence. You see, what is praise? Praise is a form of worship that is expressed. Here we see that those guys in that boat, those disciples, they expressed or verbalized their worship in praise. Praise is accentuating and expressing value to God. You can worship privately, right? In your own mind, in your own heart, in silence. You know, some of us, we come to church to be surrounded by people who are Christians and all that kind of stuff. That's awesome. Some of us sit down and we want to reflect on God and worship him in silence. That is awesome, and that's a great way to worship. But praise is the declaration of your worship. Tony Evans says it this way. He says, praise is worship gone public. It is declaring your stand. See, praise makes a difference, y'all. Praise makes a big difference. If we can get, right, more people praising the creator of the universe, declaring that Jesus Christ is the centerpiece, right, we may just be able to see God's solution for our distractions, right? We can see those solutions more clearly. We may be able to find and see the cures for so many diseases that are plaguing our world if we keep Jesus as the centerpiece, right? We may be able to see the stability and flourishing of all people. We may be able to bring peace to all the nations, right? As believers, if we keep Jesus as our centerpiece, we can see justice to the unjust systems of our land if we keep our focus on Jesus, right? Love can abound among people groups and political parties if Jesus is our focus and attention, right? Hearts can be changed and transformed from expressing hate, right, into love and carrying each other's burdens if we keep Jesus as the centerpiece. And God's kingdom will come and his will be done on earth as it is in heaven if he becomes and remains our focus and our centerpiece. We need to lift him up in praise, and we need to encourage others to do the same. So, talk to other people about Jesus, right? Acknowledge him publicly. Share your story about your experiences with Jesus with someone else, right? This will not only help to praise Jesus, but it will help you to keep your focus and attention on him. To focus on Jesus in the midst of our challenges, our struggles, our distractions, our situations, we need to make prayer a regular part of our daily routine. We need to surround ourselves with helpful and encouraging people. And we need to make praise a regular occurrence in our lives. Don't ignore your problems. Don't ignore your challenges and your distractions. Don't ignore them. What I want you to do is acknowledge them in prayer. Relational communication with our Father. I want you to connect with others and celebrate Jesus. Praise him, right? Because he is bigger than anything that you could ever go through. Don't let your current circumstances, your current situation distract you. Remember that he is the source. He is our source who can bring us out of anything. Anything. So stay focused and keep your eyes on Jesus.